Welcome to the Coached Success Podcast. This podcast is aimed at connecting you with the ways top performers think about challenges so that you can adapt your thinking accordingly and live your version of ultra extraordinary. So today we have Able on the call, Able Wanamakok. Able, how are you doing?
You asked me that already. I'm good, thank you. Better this week, yes.
Awesome. And Able, tell us a bit about who is Able.
Who is Able? Oh, wow. Okay, I'll try to keep it short, not to make it too long, but I'm just a simple girl trying to live an extraordinary life. Originally, I'm from Hong Kong, so I'm Chinese, but my parents immigrated to the US in Ohio when I was 10 with my whole family. So that's why I have this American accent. And so I'm Hong Kong American because people tend to ask, people was like, yeah, you're not from Hong Kong because Hong Kong people don't speak English like that. So I always just say I'm Hong Kong American. And now I live in Thailand for 15 years. This life is good.
Nice. So you said at the age of 10, you moved to the US?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Can you tell us a bit about how it was growing up in the US as obviously somebody who's coming from Asian descent?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, I have to say, I didn't really speak English, even though we took English classes in Hong Kong because it was still ruled by the British. But when you don't have the opportunity to speak English, pretty much I don't speak any English, which made it very difficult for me because I was in Ohio and I was in a very small town, not in any big cities where there's diversity. I was the only Chinese girl in the whole school. There were some blacks, some Indian kids, mainly white kids, but I was still the only Chinese. And I couldn't speak any English. So I have scars. I have scars from being picked on, prejudice, racism, judgments, labeling. I had all of that. But all of that made me who I am today also. So I think everybody goes through certain things in their past, but it wasn't easy. I didn't really have a lot of emotional support because my parents were struggling also on their own, trying to survive. My brother was very young. My grandma also just stayed home and didn't speak any English. So I was like on my own. Yeah, it was tough times.
Yeah, I can imagine. It must be really difficult, like you said, all alone, because you said you struggle to speak English, first of all, and then to fit in at your school and with your peers, also being the only Chinese student there. So it must have been really difficult and feeling like an outcast.
I just stayed quiet.
Okay.
I was very quiet.
But I mean, I'm sure it helped you now because obviously if you think about being quiet, it's good to be the observer. So I'm sure it taught you a lot about human behavior.
I listen a lot. Yeah, that's true.
Okay.
Correct.
So you obviously were outcast growing up. How do you think it helped you or served you to become the person who you are today? How do you think that helped you?
I really appreciate that question because nobody ever really asked me that question before. So thank you very much. It really helped me because my line of work now is not anything that I ever aspired to be. Okay. But my line of work now requires adaptability and flexibility and interpersonal skills, listening skills, and communication skills as a presenter. So people would ask me, you're not scared to travel alone by yourself to this place or that place and da-da-da-da? And I said, no, because I was always pushed outside of my comfort zone. I mean, always, always. Being an immigrant in a new country that is, the most uncomfortable environment you could be in, being not able to speak the local language, looking different physically. So pretty much every level I was different. And like you said, you can call me an outcast for sure, but it made me able to adapt to new environments very easily because I always felt different. I do try to blend in and I'm very good at it now.
Awesome.
I'm very good at it. But I'm okay to be different.
Okay.
I accept that. Yeah.
That's great skills to have, like you say, because obviously it served you today. Because if you look at your career that you have right now, the complete opposite of somebody who was the outcast, you understand? You wouldn't consider that this person would go into the limelight. You pinpointed to the fact that it helped you to adapt and to listen well,
Mm.
to become the
Yeah.
observer. And what happens is that most of us don't realize this, is that our past holds some of our best powers, okay? But we don't claim that superpower. Many of us don't claim it because of the pain attached to it. And like you said now, yes, it was painful growing up as an outcast, growing up in a
Mhm.
country where you could barely speak English, where people made fun of you. But
Right.
there were things you learned from that. There's certain
Yes.
lessons, and that you can draw and use that lessons in your life today, okay? That's actually
Yes.
helping you. So many people forget about that. They think about, oh, my past is so painful. They don't realize that what the lessons were that they can draw from. I love
Right.
that. I love that. So you moved to the US. How long did you live in the US for?
25 years.
25 years, okay. And then you moved to Thailand.
15 years. Sorry, 15
Mhm.
years. That would make me really old if I lived there for 25 years. 15 years.
15 years, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So you decided to settle down in Thailand. Why did you decide to move to Thailand?
My husband is Thai.
Okay.
We met in the US.
Okay.
And at the time, obviously, we were still very young. We didn't have any kids. We just worked for somebody. So it was very easy for us to, just pick up everything and go. And he wanted to come back to
Okay.
Thailand to start his own company.
You're very competent in Thai as well. Tell me a bit about that, learning to speak Thai.
I try to be as humble as I can. I'm not good at many things, but I'm good with languages.
Mm-hmm.
I don't pick up every types of language. Like, for example, I could never pick up Spanish, but Thai is my fourth language. So it's Cantonese, English, Japanese, and then Thai is the fourth language that I learned. So it was quite easy for me to pick up. I listened. I didn't really go to classes because I got a job about 1 month after I moved here.
Okay.
And that job required me to work Monday through Saturday. And then the language school closes on Sunday. So I had no chance to continue my, fourth lesson of Thai. So pretty much what I did was I just listened to all the girls that was sitting in the room that I was in. There was 6 girls plus me, 7, and I was right in the middle. And they would just talk all the time. And what you know about language is that every language has their own sentence structure.
Mm-hmm.
So when you understand the sentence structure of that language, you have to memorize the vocabulary and then you have to slot them in. So what I did was I would ask, like, what did you say? What did you say? How do you say that again? Like, I would constantly ask questions all the time. But the girls were patient enough with me to answer my questions. And I would repeat the questions and I would ask them to repeat the pronunciation of the words. So I learned a language through just memory, just listening. Yeah.
That's pretty awesome. Once again, it speaks volume to your ability to listen, and
Yes.
adapt. Yeah. So you were a presenter and MC. Tell me a bit about what are some of the major challenges you faced going into that industry.
Oh, another interesting question. Fear.
Okay.
Because first of all, I never aspired to be a presenter. It was
Okay.
a career that found me, being a news presenter and then going into MC and then, TV hosting. Obviously, you have to present in a certain way, but people never tell you how to present, how
Mm-hmm.
to speak. There is never a teaching of how. They would tell you, I expect you to say this, but the delivery of it has to come from your essence, has to come from within you, has to come from a part of you, from your being. And when you're new, you have fear of saying something wrong, making mistakes, not looking correctly for the role. Even though I was given the opportunity to be in the role with no experience. So that was what told me to, okay, Able, you can have fear. It's okay to have fear, but you compensate it with practice.
Okay.
So I studied a lot. I mean, I studied and I studied and I studied. And I studied so much that I reduced my own fear for when I have the moments of being in front of the camera or on stage, which is a very short time. But the study time would be triple or quadruple the time of me being in front of people. So fear for definitely is very scary. And even after 15 years of being a presenter, and I dare to call myself a professional presenter now, I still have fear.
I think it's something that never really goes away. Fear is just something that we have to learn to dance with.
Yes, you have to, actually, you can change the fear into excitement, and then you release it for the audience. You can change it.
Nice. So speaking about fear, like you said, changing it to excitement. Do you want to tell me a bit about, because obviously you can't be afraid or show fear when you are presenting to an audience. Tell me a bit about like maybe the way you ground yourself and turn that into excitement. Any practice or tools that you use?
Yes, I do. So weeks and days before the event or before doing a show, I would study. Like I said, I would prepare my script.
Okay.
And all of that information is already processed before the day of the event or the day of filming. And then I would have already practiced so much that the fear is almost gone, because when you're not in front of the camera and when you're not in front of people, you don't have the fear yet. Yeah, you're just alone in your own room or in your own house. So there's no fear yet, but there's a nervousness, there's an anticipation. And so I would tell myself, hey, self-talk, I would say, hey, Able, you got it. You studied, you practiced, you studied a lot. And you were practicing and you listen to your self-talk, because I talk out loud when I'm doing my script. When I'm reading my script, I listen to my self-talk. And I would have done it so much that I sound very smooth and I sound very good. And that's exactly how I wanted it to sound. So if there was any kind of negative talk that my mind gave to me, I would just say, you got it. Don't worry. It's fine. Just fine. And I would turn on some cool music, something that is uplifting. And then I would breathe. The breathing is something that I do right before the event or right before any kind of filming. So I would do long in breaths, and I would always close my eyes because I have to zone out. Like, I cannot let people bother me. I cannot allow their energy to bother me. So I close my eyes and I would just take, and I would do these long in breaths and long out breaths until I feel calm enough on the inside. But it's still, you have to just keep going. And you have to keep going because most of the time there's people rushing into the room. There's a lot of noise. There's producers telling you what to do. There's your co-host standing next to you. Sometimes people just talk and talk and talk, and you have to walk away from them. That's why artists have the back room, so that they can be with themselves before they have to be present and shine on stage. Because when you're up there, you can't worry about what other people think of you. You have to just do your thing, do the best that you can, be as present as you can, and shine, because that's your only chance to shine. And that's what I tell myself. When it's time for you to shine, you shine. When it's time for you to just be a normal Able, then you just stay normal. But when it's time to shine, you shine. That's what I tell myself. So I have all these self-talk and breathing, and of course, lots of studying and practice that prepares me for the moment to be on stage.
Okay. If you are enjoying this episode and would like some practical tips that you can use daily to thrive, then head over to coachedsuccess.com/thrive and download our 5 daily tips to thrive. That is coachedsuccess.com/thrive. Now let's get back to the episode. I like all the tips. Just to touch on, when it comes time to shine, you're going to shine. Okay. So tell me a bit about that. How do you make sure that you believe yourself? Okay. Because we can say anything. I can say, you know what, I can tell myself an affirmation, but it doesn't necessarily mean that I believe it. So how do you make sure that you actually believe yourself, that you know that you're going to be there for yourself?
This is very interesting, because if you would have known me when I was little, I would be a little girl who lacks a lot of self-confidence, and I didn't really believe in myself. Now, you learn to believe in yourself when you can overcome the fear, which is right here. You overcome the fear by stepping over it, by doing it. By doing it, and then you gain confidence after you do it. And you don't have to say, you do not have to do it at the level of 10. let's say you're doing something new. You tell yourself, I'm going to practice, I'm going to try, I'm going to study, or whatever it is that you need to prepare for whatever you're doing. And then you tell yourself, walk it now. You have to walk now. Walk over that fear and actually do it. After you do it, you will gain a more confidence. So let's say when you first start, you are at a level of 6. But the more you do it, that's where you gain the confidence, where you can overcome your fear because you have already done it in the past. Then you step over. It's like you're walking steps up a step. And as you get better at it, but you have to walk. You have to walk up the ladder of fear that holds you back, that tells you you can't, whatever it is that this mind tells you sometime because of your primitive mind, because of the fear. So you have to step over. So what I'm saying is you have to try. You have to give yourself the chance to try it first. And don't ever tell yourself you have to be perfect the first time, second time, third time, 10th time. You do not tell yourself you have to be perfect to the expectation of other people who are anchors for 10 years. But you try the best that you can at the level that you're at with the practice that you have done to compensate for the lack of confidence, to compensate for the fear. So you have to do it. It's action, action oriented, I would say. It's not just something that you tell yourself, you have to do it.
Yeah.
Then
And
you can overcome.
I love that because what you mentioned in there is basically efficacy, okay? We develop the confidence once we've accomplished something, we've done something, we have the belief that we can do it again. That also always tell people that they shouldn't be scared of going after something that they want. They should just do it, even if they discover that it's not all that. Do it because they develop the belief once they're there that, oh, I am capable of doing this. And that just adds to the confidence. Great advice. And then I also like the fact that you mentioned there about fear, not letting fear hold you back, okay? Because obviously, like you said, in your industry, yes, you're going to be fearful, but you can't be held back by that. Otherwise, you're never ever going to step into your dream, into the job that you have, into your vision. So I love the fact that you gave us some tips and tools that you use to quiet your mind so that you are able to do the best job possible. Because many people around there don't realize that even the most high achievers, even the most successful people also experience fear. But it's about how we handle the fear that is different to the people who don't ever achieve anything meaningful in their lives. Not just a different way of handling it. And like you say, whether it means trying to change it into excitement or whether it is trying to quiet your mind by breathing. So there are lots of different tools and things that we can do to quiet that because fear is a natural response. Tell me a bit about you also now. Obviously, you said you've been living in Thailand for 15 years. Okay. And now you're doing some other coaching as well, moving from MCs into presenting and speaking coaching. Is that correct?
I still do MC work. That's still my active line of work. But I am evolving to teaching and coaching people to be better presenters. And what I mean by that is I'm not necessarily coaching people who want to be a master of ceremony or somebody to be a TV host, even though I can, because I grew this career on my own organically, which I'm very, very proud of because I'm not Thai.
Yes.
Many people are quite baffled as to how I did that, which was a struggle, but I believe in myself enough to do it. But in everyday life, no matter whether you're a student, whether you're an executive, whether you're just a salesperson, anybody, you can learn to speak better because I actually created a career through speaking only. Either I was given a lot of opportunities because of how I presented myself. It wasn't because I was a fake or anything, but because I was very presentable and also in the way that I speak. And there are techniques that I can teach people and also how to go within yourself because techniques are techniques. Everybody can teach techniques, but to truly understand yourself is where the true presentation begins and where people can learn to trust you. And I think that is really, really important because having really good communication skill does open doors to your influence and success.
Yeah, I do.
So I'm doing presenter coaching now.
That's awesome. I definitely believe in that. Like you said, your ability to speak is very important because we sell people when we are speaking. We either enrolling them into our ideas or our vision, whatever it is, through our speech. So I definitely do believe in that. And that's also a journey that I've been on for a couple of years since I discovered that I had a fear of public speaking. So Abel, as a last question, I would like to know, have you ever been in a situation where you felt inferior to the people who you're working with, in a sense?
Not going into a job, because I always hold my place. If I wasn't meant to be there, I wouldn't be there. And I do not see myself as superior to other people as well. I see myself as just an equal to everybody else. But I was laughed at before by some audience because I have made mistakes. I have had people who try, because of their ego, they try to showcase who they are to their bosses. So they cut me off from what I was supposed to do. So I don't feel inferior going into something, but people do try to make me feel inferior to them. But I never really allow that feeling. Even if I have felt it, I would have felt it for maybe no more than 10 minutes, especially when I'm at an event, because I have to hold my presence there, because you are a leader. When you're in those environments, you are a leader. So you cannot allow other people, other egos, other minds, or other people's reactions to affect you for too long. So it can affect me for 5 seconds, 10 seconds, maximum for 10 minutes. And I have to tell myself, snap out of it, forget it, let them be, let them go, because they are having their own issues. You just do your job, and that's it.
And I like that. I like that.
In my line of work, I don't stay and work with people for months. I work with them for hours, only hours or days. And then that's it, no more.
It's like you said, being in your position, you need to obviously be able to regulate your emotions firstly, and secondly, be able to change your state. Very important. Also, like it points to how you said, how you phrase things, basically your self-talk, because ultimately people only get to us because we allow them to get to us. Okay, that's it.
Yes.
And like you mentioned there, the way you filter that was that, you know what, I'm only working here for a couple of hours, or you guys, when I run the show, do whatever you need to do. Do you want to give us another example of how you usually just filter? What's the way you filter that to minimize the effect that it has on you?
Yeah, well, because the feeling that you give out, let's say I act all egotistic, I act like I'm a superstar, I start, pointing fingers and telling people what to do. If I do act like that in a disrespectful way to others, of course you're going to get more shit back. You will, for sure. But you listen when you're supposed to listen. You need to know your place. You need to try to understand your role within the organization. And that's it. There should be no ego. It should be just doing the best that you can to help the team and to help everybody's hard work shine, because everybody has done so much already before I deliver the message. And I got all the limelight because I'm the one who delivers the message.
Yes.
So what I do is very important, but I am not the most important. I am just one small team. And when you remember that in any type of situation, you remember that, you stay grounded, you stay humble. People will treat you with respect. People will give you freedom. People will leave you alone because they know you can, that you will and you can. And then you're fine. Then you're good.
Thank you so much, Abel. I'd like to say thank you for taking the time out of your day to chat to me and share insight from your journey and how to handle fear and how to deal with fear.
Thank you so much for this. And I really liked your many questions. They were very good questions.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode. This is a weekly podcast, so tune in every Monday to get your dose of inspiration that will help guide you in designing your version of an extraordinary life. This is Kyle Daniels, wishing you an amazing day. Stay winning.